And at General Motors was where she met her second husband, Leonard Jules Verbeeck, who was known as Jules, because everybody's known by their middle names in this story, except my mother never went, "Call me Edna." No, she did not. Anyway, so that's where Germaine met Jules, who was very handsome, very much a ladies' man, and also a real fucking dick. And the thing was, Mom was so excited to get a father. She was so excited because she was the only one who didn't have a father. Everybody had a father, but she didn't. And when her mother was going to marry Jules, oh my gosh, she was so happy. She would have walked through fire for him. And if he had been at all kind, she would have worshipped him forever. And in fact, when he was dating Germaine, he was great. Once they got married, he was not kind. He wasn't cruel. He didn't beat her or anything like that, but he was not kind. And man, she remembered until the day she died stuff that, little nasty things he'd done. Children remember forever. And you think of that. If you're going to be unkind to a child, that she will remember when she's in her 90s. So, she tells it, I'm sorry, I'm weeping. I'd forgotten about these stories, actually. I'd forgotten about this. But, he had left, a sweater or something at her mother's house, and she wore it to school. And maybe this was after they got married, I can't remember. Or maybe just before. And the girl said, "Oh, where'd you get that sweater?" And she said, "It's my father's." They said, "You don't have a father." And she said, "Yes, I do. I do now." Yeah, she also tells a story about when she had a little brother and sister. And she and her mother and her brother and sister were laughing in the kitchen. And then they'd hear the door open. And they knew he was home. And she said, and that's when the laughter stopped. Even the baby. They knew that when Jules came home, he had to tread lightly and figure out what kind of mood he was going to be in. So I met Jules a few times. He was very nice to me. I never met Germaine. I never met Eldred. But I will never forgive him. It would have been so easy. So easy. But he was just one of those people who he wasn't nice. But she also said he taught her a lot. He taught her how to be tough. He taught her how to get what she wanted. Because she was never going to let him win. So she was going to go out there and make something of herself. And show him. Mom's first language was French. Everyone else in the family's first language was Flemish. This is because she went to the French convent school. And she refused to speak Flemish. At the time, French was more upper class than Flemish was. So French speakers were a little snobby about it. And she kind of learned that at the convent school. So everybody had to, when she was home, everyone had to speak French. Her step-grandmother, Boma, was a Flemish-only speaker, and she had to learn French to communicate with her granddaughter. It was a scarf, not a sweater. I remember now. It was a scarf. It belonged to my father. So then there was the war, and Belgium was occupied, obviously, by the Germans. Mom always said there was a big difference between German soldiers and Nazis, that they weren't the same thing. German soldiers often were just, drafted. And Nazis were Nazis. But yeah, so she always made it very clear that German soldiers lived in her house. Germaine refused to leave. They did not give up their house. She and her children were going to stay there, and so the German soldiers moved in with them. I don't know where Jules was at the time. I think he may have been in jail. I think he may have been doing black market stuff. I don't, but in all the stories about the German soldiers living in the house, Jules was never there. Obviously, they didn't get pally with the German soldiers, especially because they took over the house. They took the best chair. They took, the best, places to sleep, everything like that. Everything was theirs. But they were polite and not unkind to Germaine and the kids. Mom's little sister was Liliane. Mom's little brother was Paul, whom she always called Polika. And she said they got better bread because the German soldiers were living with them. But, all right, here's the thing. My whole life, I have always needed lots and lots of light. I grew up in a house with giant sliding glass doors everywhere. When the house was remodeled, that was put in when I was a little kid. Always lots of lights. Lots of lights. So that my mother would go, are there millionaires living in this house? And turn off lights in rooms that were without people. Or I left the light on the stairs all the time. Anyway, lots of light. No candles, no curtains, nothing. I only found out many years later that this was because my mother grew up in occupied Belgium, where they had to have blackout curtains over the window, and she had to do her homework by candlelight. And so she never ever found, if anybody tried to have a romantic candlelight dinner with her, she was not having that shit. And I was like, wait, are you saying the reason I need to have lots of light, and when I walk into a room that's dimly lit, I'm like, what is this, the bottom of a coal mine? Is because you grew up during the war? I have your light trauma. I like candlelight, but I also turn on every light all the time. I don't like sitting by candlelight. I like having a candle lit while also all the electric lights of the world being on. It is interesting how this is my generational trauma. It's not a big one, but it exists, and it's because of World War II, Belgium. Here's another war story. This was one I probably have told it before, but this is one that I only found out, I don't know, 6 years before Mom died, something like that. Never learned this story before that. My mother's grandmother, Grandmere, not Boma, that was their step-grandmother, Engelbertha Kalishoek, or rather, Engelbertha Elisabeth Meerbergen, the writer. During the war, she lived in an apartment. My mother and her parents lived in a house, and the German soldiers. And they had chickens. And so my mother would visit her grandmother and bring her a couple of eggs. And she said there was always this other woman from the apartment building who was always there. And she was like, why is she here? I want to spend time with my grandmother. Why is this lady here? And after the war, she found out that my grandmother was hiding a Jewish couple in her apartment. And this neighbor knew about it. And so therefore, when my mother came and brought the eggs, she took the eggs. And because otherwise she was blackmailing my great-grandmother. And fortunately, she was able to be paid off with a couple of eggs, that it was a big deal to have eggs. So yeah, my great-grandmother saved a Jewish couple in World War II. I do not know their names, but I'm very proud, very proud. There was a movie some years back, and I don't remember what it was called. But my mother said it was the most realistic film she ever saw about occupation. And part of it was the boots they had the boots, the sound of the boots on the cobblestone. And she said that just brought her back. So those boots were her little mini PTSD memory of being there during the war. I mean, you know, she didn't have a terrible wartime experience. A lot of people had worse, but it wasn't great. So the Americans came to free Belgium. And then after that, the Canadians came. And they were so thrilled that the Canadians came. They said, hooray, someone for us to speak French to. And the Canadians started speaking French to the Belgians. And the Belgians said, let's go back to English. We don't understand you.